It's been an unusual year, to say the least. I think we've all been kind of affected, in some way or the other by a host of really difficult events. Not only the pandemic, but the pervasive negative effects of social media. I mean, we've all felt that, right, this year. Civil unrest, all that. At the same time, we've experienced the goodness and grace and constant provision of God. We were planted in 2005, and I'm so grateful for you, Father Scott, for telling that story. Story that we'll continue to repeat, over and over. We're planted in 2005 by Father John Dyson with this vision to establish a healthy, worshiping community in Phoenix that modeled and taught the Anglican way of discipleship to Jesus. And after 7 years as a portable church, which I got in on the tail end on that the past 2 years, the last 2 years of that pretty much. We were over at Sunny Slope High School, which if you ever drive by Sunny Slope High School, they have like a giant, their mascot, the Vikings. And I still remember, Jensen as a real, he was 7 months old when we started coming to DMAG. And him asking me if that was Jesus, or I'm like, no, Jesus does not have horns. We moved into this property in 2012, and by the grace of God, we've been able to flourish here in a lot of ways. We've been able to lean into our calling to be an Anglican church in this area in ways that were really hard or impossible when we were a portable church. And so we're really thankful for that. And even in this pandemic, we want to give God the glory that we've been able to be faithfully present with Him and with one another and with our neighbors in really significant ways. I want to take a moment to reflect over and rehearse some stuff from this last year. This past year, our dear friends Wilma and Dennis went to be with the Lord. And I've already talked a little bit about Dennis. I know we all miss Wilma, too. It was difficult. We spent 14 weeks, I counted. I went back to our videos, and I counted all the videos that were like the close-up shot. That's what he was talking about. We had these lights set up here just blaring in our faces. Camera's like right here. I'm like right here. It was something else. But we spent 14 weeks with a skeleton crew here in our church. And we did rotate some people out of there, but it was really, it was a thin crowd, you know what I mean? And we did that for a while we figured out how to kind of move forward in a pandemic. And right now we have kind of a rhythm. It's not perfect. But we're able to gather meaningfully in worship, and we're so thankful for that. At the same time, not only have we grieved the loss of our friends, but we've lost this year for season some really treasured traditions in our church too. Things that we love to do. Simple things like family meals after church. Really miss that. Miss being cramped over there in the parish hall and, not being able to move anywhere. But still having delicious food. I miss doing some of those events for our neighborhood, trunk or treat and our summer splash and, those fun things for the kids in our neighborhood. And it's been hard to not get to do that stuff this year. We've had to adjust to different ways of doing things. It's been really hard. It's been really, really good too. I don't want to only list the bad things. So many good things too. We've never stopped worshiping together. Even if we had to kind of figure out how to do it online for a little while. I'm so proud of our little church that has just pressed on to worship God the best that we can and as together as we can, no matter the circumstances. We've had some really hard conversations this year with one another, especially around the tensions that have come up with different kind of tolerances of risk, if you will, and different convictions about how to best meet those risks presented by COVID. None of those conversations have been easy, but they've been good. They've been good because they've caused us to grow and clarify and have given us opportunities to love one another. Not that we've always done that perfectly either, but I believe that's what we've been striving towards. That's what we've been working towards. It has been kind of amazing that how we've been able to kind of start streaming our worship services and have this online morning and evening prayer sometimes and things like that, to see the expanded reach of our church, to see people that are engaging with our church that wouldn't otherwise is a massive blessing. We've had, for the first time really ever, we have started this past December, real regular Wednesday night services. And true, there's not usually a lot of people there, but it's been a tremendous blessing to be able to do that and to continue to do that. And we're going to keep having those opportunities for Wednesday night worship. We relaunched our small group ministry. More people participating than ever before in that. That was a huge blessing. Our bread ministry has kept going. By the grace of God, our St. Francis House ministry for those at risk of homelessness has really flourished this year. And we even made some progress on the parish hall. It's been under repair for like over a year. But God willing, we're going to finish that floor in the next 6 weeks. I got quotes. I got samples. We just got to have another real hard conversation about which kind of epoxy or whatever, and we'll get it done. And here's an interesting thing. Somehow, even in this pandemic and everything related to it and adjacent to it, we've continued to have a steady flow of visitors to our church, which I find amazing. And I give God the glory for it, because we're not really doing anything. We're not doing a lot of outreach. We haven't done a lot of outreach this year. And so that's been amazing. We even had people join our church, become covenant members in 2020. In 2020! It's amazing. We're so blessed. We have depended on the Lord to see us through 2020, and He's done it. And so we're thankful. As we move into 2021, we do have pressing challenges ahead. And we need to all know it so we know how to pray. And so we can kind of get these things out on the table. First, we're going to have to adjust to parish life without Father Scott as our associate pastor. Without seeing Kim and Harry regularly worship with us as well. And that's going to be hard, man. I hope you know that you and your family are going to be truly, truly missed. For me, you guys, when I came to DMAC, I didn't know anything about Anglicanism at all, except that it existed, and they baptized babies, and I wasn't cool with that, I've baptized all 3 of my kids, by the way, as babies since then. But I didn't know anything, and Father Scott has been, that friend and mentor along the way for me these past 11 years, and I was blessed to be at both of those ordinations and play a part in each of those. And so I literally don't know what it's like to do ministry at DMAC without Father Scott. Heading into the unknown for me, and that's hard. But I want you to know, we'll say this hopefully many more times in many ways between now and February 21. But I want you to know, Father Scott, that your ministry at DMAC has been instrumental and precious and fruitful for the gospel. Not just for me, but for many people. And the same goes for your family. I can even just remember how crucial it was. One of the first Sundays that we were here at DMAC, that we went out to eat with you and Kim, and just how Kim talked to me a little bit about being on a spiritual journey and what that was like, and how warm and kind she was to me. I have so many memories like that with you guys. Having fun with Harry, playing drums and guitar together. Anyways, we'll have a lot more to say about all of that. But for now, I want to acknowledge that this is a difficult transition. I know it's difficult for you. It's hard for you. It's hard for us. We're depending on the Lord to see us through. And we believe he'll do it. We also have some significant financial challenges ahead of us. And we need to be open, honest, and clear about that. Money's an awkward topic. It shouldn't be. Jesus talked about it all the time. We should be able to talk about it all the time. It does bring up sensitive things sometimes, and it's hard. But if we come at each other with the benefit of the doubt that we love one another and we love Jesus, we're going to be able to have those conversations. We have spent the last few years spending our savings. And most of those savings did not come from regular offerings, but through limited scope and one-time large gifts. So it's been a long time, really, since we have kind of subsisted on our monthly giving. If we continue to fall short of meeting our monthly expenses, which we've been doing for a long time, as a matter of course, we are very likely going to come to the end of those savings this year. And like, if that wasn't kind of enough of a challenge, like, that's a challenge. But we also have some additional serious repairs that need to be done on our property. We have some plumbing that is, on its very last legs down at St. Francis House still. And so we need to deal with that. That's going to be really expensive. We're just going to keep praying that those ACs out there just keep pumping that cold air. They're like 25 years old or something. So just, keep praying for the AC, guys. We have those. We really want to pay off this property. Like, I'm bold enough to pray that we will be able to pay off this building that we own in the next 3 or 4 years, so that we don't have to find another lender or go through any drama when that kind of comes due at the end of our 5-year mortgage agreement. So look, we're not worried, okay? We need to, I want to be really clear that we have challenges. We need to be serious about it, but we don't need to be worried about it. That not only will it not accomplish anything in itself, it will actually only distract us from Jesus. And so we need to let the worry go and take our attention and place it back on the Lord and ask what he is saying to us through this circumstance, in and through this circumstance. And make it about that. Lord, what are you telling us needs to change? What are you telling us needs to change in order for us to continue our common mission here? We need to discern that together as a church body and as leaders. And so I'm asking you to join me in fervent prayer as we seek God's will together for our church finances. We're depending on the Lord to see us through, and we believe he'll do it. Finally, these are like the 3 biggest challenges that I was thinking about. Last one is, I think if we're honest, we have some cultural and discipleship challenges ahead of us as a church. What I mean is, interestingly, we are a pretty diverse church in terms of political views and how we approach navigating contentious topics in the church. And like, even whether or not, like what degree we should navigate contentious topics in the church, and all that kind of thing as well. We don't all agree all the time, right? And as the COVID vaccine gets more widespread, we're really grateful that we're expecting some relief, right, from some of the restrictions we've experienced on that. But the way that we begin to change and come back and do different things, and what things stay the same, what things are changed, I 100% promise you that there will be different convictions about what's best and when. I 100% promise you that. We will not all agree all the time. That's going to be a challenge. And so we can't just kind of ignore that and say, oh, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. No, we need to prepare ourselves emotionally, spiritually, right now. We need to pray right now that God will give us grace and love and forbearance and wisdom to move through these things. We're depending on the Lord to see us through, and we believe he's going to do it. And so I want to say that, reiterate that when I say we depend on the Lord to see us through it, I'm not suggesting that we kind of have a live and let live attitude. I'm not saying that we throw caution to the wind, that we abandon wisdom, and that we just kind of say, well, whatever. I believe God gives us grace unconditionally, to be sure. And there's nothing we do to earn God's grace or favor. But this is not opposed to the effort of pressing on towards the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Here's what I mean. God's grace enables us to put forth the effort to pursue Christ in one another. And we have to make that our goal. Always, right? That is especially obvious to me this year. So to that end, I intend to call us to continue to be a place where all questions are allowed. All questions are allowed at DMAC. This is not a place where you don't get to question authority. Okay, I'm not saying that you can do that in a mean way. Please don't be mean to me, right? Or to your vestry members, or in a spirit of rebellion. But questions are great. We love questions. Ask your questions. It's a safe place for any questions at DMAC. Also, we have to be a place where hard conversations are had. So in other words, like, we can't kind of have a guarded attitude of like, well, I just don't really want to have that conversation because it's just so uncomfortable. We have to be able to have the conversations. I mean, speaking to the vestry, we have to be able to have these hard conversations as a vestry, as a congregation, same thing. It is really, really uncomfortable. There's no way around it. And I want to encourage you that this is a situation, whenever we get into these things, if we have Christ kind of out there as our focus, who we are pursuing, then although there's discomfort, there's joy on the other side of the discomfort. So you remember what Paul said in Romans 8, that we will be glorified with Christ provided we suffer with him. So, none of us is being crucified today. You know what I'm saying? And so this difficult conversations are hard, but we can do it with God's help. And I want to encourage you that this is going to be that kind of place where we have hard conversations, all questions are allowed, and where Christ and his teachings are at the very center. So in other words, I want us to always be thinking, how can we explicitly relate this action that we're taking, this attitude that we have, even this question that we're going to ask, like, how can I relate this to the teachings and person of Jesus Christ? That's what it means to have a Christ-centered community. And that's what I want to call us to do, and we're not going to do it perfectly, but we want to pray for God's help in that. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. I'm looking forward to those things. I'm not looking forward to the discomfort, but I'm looking forward to the joy, right? And I can tell you that exists. I mean, and that happens all the time. As a pastor, one of the most difficult things I've had to realize is that my life is full of difficult conversations, and that I'd rather not have on one level. The amazing thing is the blessings that emerge when it's approached in a spirit of mutual love and pursuit of Christ. I'm really looking forward to mutual encouragement with you this year in sacrificial generosity, in prayer, as we each give of what God has given us for Christ's kingdom. Our leadership roster has changed this year and will continue to develop a lot. And we're looking forward to that. I mean, it's going to be good. We're going to have opportunities to grow. God willing, in just a couple of months, in March, when our bishop comes and visits us, Jen Anderson, our minister of children and youth, will finally be ordained. What a journey, Jen. And we're so excited for that, for her ordination to the diaconate. Brian Myron is in discernment right now for holy orders, and we are excited for where God is leading him, and we are excited to come alongside you, Brian, in ministry, especially to the Hopi and Navajo people, and for us to have that opportunity to pour into you, to pray for you, to support you in the ministry to which God has called you is an honor and something none of us take for granted. We're definitely looking forward to that, to that vaccine and having lunch together. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later, no promises. But we're looking forward to it. We're striving for it. Also, I'm going on sabbatical. Okay, look. I love you all so much, and I want to assure you, that the reason I'm taking this sabbatical, why I requested this from the vestry, is to prepare for as many years of healthy future ministry alongside Desert Mission Anglican Church as the Lord allows. I'm doing this because I really want to be in this for the long haul. And that's where I sense the Lord leading. We're going to have a lot more information on the specifics on all that, as we get a little bit closer. It is exciting for me, and I hope it's exciting for you as well, not because you'll be glad to kind of get rid of me for a while, but because it will be a time for all of you to really take ownership of our church's vision and activities and life together. It's important because sometimes as a pastor, you try not to, but you kind of take on these things. It kind of slowly creeps up on you, and you take on more than you should. And so I'm grateful to be able to give some of those things to you guys. It's going to be a time for our congregation to grow, other voices in our community, in our local community, and our local DMAC community, and other churches too, will have the opportunity to preach and teach and lead. It's going to give you and me assurance, and this is so important, you guys. One of the reasons why we do this as an exercise, a spiritual discipline, if you will, of Sabbath rest, is the whole purpose of Sabbath to begin with, which is to remind us that our sustaining power comes from Christ and Christ alone. And so me taking a complete and total break for 90 days means we're going to be reminded that, and me too, that this is not my church. It's not Father Nathan's church. I really try to avoid that kind of language. It's also not your church, like you belong to it, you're part of it, but it's Christ's church. It can only be Christ's church. He's the head, and we are members of his body. We get to be reminded of that. That's exciting. Most of all this year, as always, I'm just looking forward to continuing to worship God together. It's a time of transition, to be sure, but we have these traditions. Even in this difficult time, we'd have to modify them a little bit. Don't ask me what we're doing for Ash Wednesday yet. I don't know. I intend to lead us this year in leaning even more into the treasures that we have in our Anglican tradition. Now, hear me clearly. I'm not talking about being more about rules and regulations. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I may be talking about a little more incense. Just kidding. Calm down. Maybe outside, little incense. We'll see. What I'm actually talking about is providing opportunities and resources and teaching in person, online, all those things for worship and observing special days and confession and absolution and talking about those things so that we can begin to receive them not as burdens, not as kind of another law that we add to Christ or anything like that, but as gifts, as ways that we can be formed as followers of Christ. You know, our tradition is not meant to be a Sunday-only tradition. There's meant to be a daily component to our worship. This is how we are formed as followers of Christ in our tradition, as Anglicans. And I want to help us lean into that. And so one of the ways that one of the things that I want to say often and that we can think about together is that our primary discipleship program at our church is the liturgical life of our church. It is the sacramental life of our church. That's our primary discipleship program. Doesn't mean we don't also have classes. It doesn't mean we don't prepare people for baptism and have catechism and all that good stuff. But it does mean that the primary day in and day out thing that we do is the liturgy, is the sacrament. And above and beyond everything else, look, this is who we've been, this is who we are, this is who we will be, followers of Jesus Christ. Okay? We want to know him. That's what we want to be about. We want to be like him. We want to share his love with one another, with the world. We're depending on the Lord to do it. We're depending on the Lord to do it, to do all these things in us. And we believe he's gonna. We believe he's gonna.